Let's start. Welcome, welcome, everyone. My name is Aurelia Maraca. On behalf of the Danbury Library, I'd like to welcome you to our first ever virtual hip hop workshop on this Tuesday, February 23rd, with the great multidisciplinarian artist, historian, graffiti wonderkin, Derick Cross. Derick Cross, welcome to the Danbury Library.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm glad to be here, glad to be here. Well, was a little silent, so I think I'm gonna add some music. Music, please. Music, please. Greetings, my name is Derick Cross, the artist, hip-hop artist, hip-hop ambassador, etc., 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 etc. And this is a hip-hop workshop where I will talk a little bit about the history, early history, hip-hop, also show you a little bit about beatboxing and some basic graffiti imagery. Hello, once again, I would like to welcome you. My name is Derick Cross, hip-hop ambassador. Well, you probably say, what's a hip-hop ambassador? Well, a hip-hop ambassador is one who shows the goodwill of hip-hop culture. Now, you're wondering, what is hip-hop? A lot of people have always said, well, what is hip-hop? What is it? Is it the music? Is it the dance? I'm going to explain that in a nutshell. See, hip-hop, as we now call it, is actually a culture. Hip-hop. Now, a lot of people like to say when hip-hop started. Well, some people say, oh, did it start in the 60s? Did it start in the 50s? Well, officially, hip-hop, as we now know it, started in 1973. Why we pinpoint 1973? In the Bronx, New York, there was a young man by the name of Clive Campbell, aka Kool Herc, who got this idea from his sister that he wanted to have a back-to-school party. Now, the unique thing about this back-to-school party that was happening at this particular time is Kool Herc, after watching what was going on with the older DJs who were in his area, he had developed this technique of taking turntables and spinning them back to back and taking the parts of the records or the parts that they listened to of the music and play it back to back. Here we go. Now, this was a unique thing. He got these really big speakers from his dad, and he would play with these speakers, and he had this party on August 11th. Now, nobody thought much about this particular party. The party was in the West Bronx, 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. And although they thought that maybe only a few people would show up, people from all over the Bronx showed up at this particular party and heard about this party. Now, what happened at this particular party, they saw what Herc was doing with the turntables and thought it was pretty interesting. They saw what the dancers, who would later be known as breakers or b-boys and b-girls, they moved a certain way to the music. And then you had someone who was on the microphone who was known as an MC. And an MC is a master of ceremonies. Now, early in those days with Kool Herc, they didn't really get around to what we now call as rhyming and rapping. But he had his MC at the time, Coke Rock, get on the microphone and just like shout out instructions. Like, hey, throw your hands in the air and wave them like you just don't care. Everybody over there, and he would sort of announce what was going on. So this got around the Bronx, not only the Bronx, but all over the city. See, what was happening in the city of New York at the time is in the 1970s, the city was going broke. So when the city was going broke and losing money, one of the things that happened was they took away the art programs. They took away the music programs. And in the Bronx particularly, it didn't always look so nice because you had landlords that were burning down buildings in order to get insurance money. So one of the things that the young people did was, now it wasn't legal, but they wanted to have their voice and they would write their names on some of these abandoned buildings. They would write their names on some of the walls. They even started writing their names on subway trains. This is actually a replica of an old subway train that was made with cardboard and tape. They used aerosol cans to do that. Then they said, you know what? We're not just going to write our names. We're going to start creating art pieces on the walls and telling the people that are telling us that we don't matter, that we matter. So hence you had the first recognized element of hip hop, which is graffiti. Interestingly enough, Kool Herc was also a graffiti artist. Now, one of the things that they did when they wanted to advertise the party, they would take some of their graffiti and they would make flyers and they would hand it out to people and they would have these parties. Now, through these parties going all around the Bronx and all around the city, the culture started growing. It started spreading with the likes of DJ Grandmaster Flash, who is now a rock and roll Hall of Famer with his group Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. He is a pioneer of what we now call hip hop. And also one of the things that happened in hip hop was there was conflict resolution because there were also different fights, there were gangs that were fighting. So they took hip hop, the elements, battling using beats, battling using dance moves instead of fighting in order to settle different scores. And all of these things start to develop in the mid-70s. Now, there were jams in the park. Now, a jam are these big parties that were happening in the park. And then all these young people were getting together and coming up with creative things and all things like that. And then in 1979, it was actually recorded on wax, on vinyl. Now, the first hip hop record, or what was known as the first hip hop record, contrary to popular belief, was not the first hit. The first hit that we think of is Rapper's Delight, which goes hip hop, hip it, hip hop, and you don't stop. A rocker to the bang bang boogie, say up jump the boogie, to the ripple to the boogie you be. The first record though was called King Tim III by a soul group called the Fatback Band. Interesting fact. So now we're looking at hip hop and what it is, and we have all of these elements. Now the elements, let me break it down. First element that we have is graffiti. or hip hop art. So that's writing, also illustrations, and cartooning. Now, the second element of hip hop is the DJ. He creates the instrumentals. He uses the music to be able to bring the crowd to life. Then you have the breakers or the dancing element. So you have breakers, b-boys and b-girls, but also other different parts of hip-hop dance that are part of hip-hop. Then you have the most popular element of hip-hop, which is MCing or rapping, where the person gets a microphone and they ask rhymes and they do it all of the time, and then they build, and if they feel cool, then they chill, and if you will, that is an element that actually elevated and had people talking about hip hop throughout the late 1970s, the 80s, the 90s, and now the 2020s. And then there's an overarching element called knowledge. That means just like knowledge of everything that's around you, awareness. And then there's the forgotten element, or the element that is not talked about as much, which is beatboxing. Human beatboxing is when you are able to create music with your mouth. And the first person that's recognized as calling themselves a human beatbox is Dougie Fresh. So in 1981 was the first time he called himself a human beatbox. Reason that he called himself a human beatbox was because, once again, that name again, Grandmaster Flash, used to have this box that he created, being really innovative, that was a beat machine. And that beat machine was his own version of these huge drum machines that were created most of the time overseas. Created in Germany, created in Japan, and they would be drum machines. Well, Flash made his own makeshift drum machine that he put together, and it made sounds like and into Dougie Fresh. When Dougie Fresh started making these beats by listening, he called himself, or should I say his good friend Barry B, called him a human beatbox because he made music with his mouth. Now, beatboxing became popular starting in 1983, 84, with a group of young men at the time, who actually they were teenagers, called the Fat Boys. Now, or originally known as the Disco Three, and it consisted of the members Prince Marky D, rest in peace, he just transitioned, Cool Rock Ski, and Buffy, the human beatbox, who also called himself a human beatbox and made noises like now in the 80s, that was a thing where it became very popular, and young people were figuring out how they can make these sounds. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a mini beatboxing lesson so you can make music with your mouth. So the first thing that you want to do is think about a drum. You think about a drum or a drum set. Now, a drum set usually has a few different sounds. The first sound is a kick sound or a bass drum. So in order to make that sound, one way you can do is you can put your lips together and go puh, 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 like making a P sound. Puh, puh, puh. And you take the air and you push it through. Puh, puh. Now, under your ribs, there's your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is pushing that air. So if you go and you push more air through your diaphragm, you're going to get a deeper sound. Another alternate way to make that deep sound is you can use the word boom, 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 boom. So if you have a boom or a now that's your kick sound. Now you're going to add what's called a snare. A snare is a drum sound, which is a tighter sound or a shorter sound, like as in cake. Or you can say cat, 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 cat. So what happens when you put a so it's and you repeat those sounds, you start to get a rhythm. Now you're going to add a third basic sound, which is a hi-hat. Hi-hat is a cymbal and it makes a sound, as in. So what would happen if we took and repeated it? We would get now, how you come up with your patterns is up to you. You can make it faster or slower. Now, beatboxers, when they first started, one of the things they did was they listened. They listened to whatever songs were around them, whatever music was around them. That's what guided what they were going to be able to create. And sometimes they just hum to themselves. You can experiment. You can do so many different things. I'm just showing you some basic stuff. Like the M sound. So I took that M sound, and then I said, and then I put it all together. Now, if I make it go faster, or it can be so the more you experiment, the better you're going to get at it. And also, there's other sounds that you can use to spice it up. I talked a lot about the DJ. So one of the specialties that I learned when I was very young was imitating the sounds of a scratch that a DJ would make. But a real simple way to do it. See, I get really complex with it. I learned how to do it, one, by hiccuping. I listened to hiccups and listened to turntables of a group called Run DMC's DJ, Jam Master Jay. They had a routine where they would scratch up the name Run DMC and go, run, 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 DMC and Jam Master Jay. So what I did was I would hiccup. So I could say a word, like, for example, cauliflower. That's a complex word, but so what? Cauliflower, 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 cauliflower. So I put that in it, and it sounds like it's scratching. Or I could make a simple sound like wicka, 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 or zicka, zicka, or say the word David real fast. David, 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 David. And then I can add a beat. David, 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 David. David, 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 David. David, 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 David. David, 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 David. And I could play around with all of those different things. All right, so we got a basic beatbox lesson going. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna actually record what I did, and we'll have a background for when we get into making our first illustration. This right here is called the loop station. So it records my voice, or it loops my voice. There's a little bonus. So what I'm going to do is start with a simple beat, 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 beat. So this is gonna be my background music, because I think it's time for us to do some art. Yes, 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 yes. So we were talking about graffiti and different things like that. So right here, these are bubble letters. And these are some characters. And it says, peace and love, peace and love. But what I want to start everyone with are what's called block letters. Now, block letters are rectangular. So since we're talking about hip hop, I'm going to take some block letters and I'm going to draw the word hip hop. So I start off by making a simple rectangle. Now, when I make that rectangle, now my rectangle doesn't have to be perfect. I separate it to make sure that all of the letters are going to fit. So I have my H, there's a line. I have my I, there's a line. For my P, there's a line. And my H, there's a line. And then for my O, there's a line. And that's for my P. So when you're drawing this out, you don't have to use a Sharpie marker or a marker. You can actually start off with a pencil. I'm actually not starting off with a pencil only because it's easier to see starting off with a marker. So now I have this rectangle. So the next thing I want to do inside of the rectangle is do my first letter. So my first letter is H, so then I go to the middle, make a line, and then I skip, space, line going up. Then I have what could be the beginnings of an H. An alternate way that this can be done, you can actually make a little rectangle on the inside of that. Once again, that's up to you. Then I have my I. I could leave my I just like this, or I could get a little bit fancy, make a small rectangle, and then on the parallel side, I make another small rectangle. So these are block letters. So they're all going to look rectangular and sort of square. Then over here, I'm going to make a small rectangle at the bottom. And that's the beginning of my P in hip hop. Then in the middle, small rectangle. Then I have my H. Now I'm going to make this H a little bit different than this H. It's still going to be blocked. This one will be simply a line. What I'm doing is I'm going medium speed. I won't say that I'm going slow. I'm going medium speed so that you can just see just some basic ways that you can just get these block letters. Then I have my O for my O, rectangle. Then I go for my P over here, rectangle. Then once I have this right here, I might decide I want it to look like it might be somewhat three-dimensional. So to make it three-dimensional, I'm going to, one, go to the bottom of my H, and I'm going to draw a line and a parallel line with the bottom here. And then here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a line like this. So it's like it's coming at you. Once I have this right here, I can start thinking about what do I want to do to add different designs. I might want to make this look like bricks, maybe. Have the line. And I might want this to look like bricks here. I might want this to look like it's crumbling. Add a crack in there. I might consistently want to go and have all of the letters look similar. Or I might even want to create a picture within the block letters. So say these are blocks being able to be broken down. So within your letters, you could tell a story. So it's like breaking through this wall. And breaking through this wall, I might decide that I want a person in there, or even a silhouette of a person. Now, without going into a whole lot of details, I might decide with a simple stick figure. See, I'm just drawing a stick figure. It's a head, arm, and then I fill it in with shadow, person's leg, fingers. So just that quick. Have the character of a person without using a lot of detail. It's there. So here, what I can do to make it even more dimensional, I can shade it in. Now notice I didn't add any color yet. I don't need it just yet. So think about what creative choices that I might make. Here in the background, I might make this person a person sort of coming forward in between two letters, the O and the P. Silhouette. So I have an oval. Then inside that oval, I'm going to make this person could possibly be listening to music. So there's earphones. Simple shape of an eye. Curve, curves. Maybe I'll make some more people in the back. Maybe some of the people might be dancers. So this silhouette here, I'm going to make this a silhouette. Of a young lady. And maybe she's dancing, doing a dance move. I think about what else is going on here. I can have a line here, line there, line there. Make it even more dimensional. Add shadow lines or lines toward the bottom. Now, once I got all this black and white going with just these box letters, I can take, before I even add color, take my black marker and add accent lines. On the angles, and it'll make the letters more pronounced. And then I start thinking about colors. Now, whatever colors that you want to put in, that's that's the decision that you'll think about when you're creating. So for my bricks, I might choose variation, reds or orange. And I can outline. I can use my black outline, my black Sharpie outlines, to just outline on those bricks. And I'm going to use sort of an orange color on my bricks. A lot of times we think bricks, red, but a lot of times and also one of the things that would be used by graffiti artists or murals or aerosol artists, as they're also called, is what's called a black book, which is a sketchbook similar to this, where they would keep their artwork and they would carry it around. And often these sketches will be smaller versions of what they would see for larger murals. Now, trains, once upon a time, even though it was illegal, were the sources of the mural, of where they would put a lot of these murals. The reasons that they would do that is so that they would travel throughout the city of New York and more people could see their artwork. Because, like I said, during that time in the 70s and then in the early 80s, a lot of these artists, these young artists, didn't have access to the galleries. But an interesting thing happened because of their work being shown on trains and on the sides of trains, the outlaw work that was up there because it wasn't legal. I no way condone doing any artwork or any vandalism on property that you do not own. But what happened was art galleries started to take notice, specifically art galleries that were international. Art galleries in Europe thought what these graffiti artists were doing was really cool, so they actually gave them venues and they gave them art shows, and they also gave them opportunities to be able to create larger pieces on canvases. This is something that is still the case today. Now, throughout the world, you will see a lot of artists being able to create artwork on murals, and because graffiti is still sort of a bad word, they won't call it graffiti, they might call it street art. And also, another little tidbit or information that you may or may not know, the acclaimed artist Basquiat was actually once recognized as a graffiti artist who would create artworks on the walls that had different messages, different socially conscious messages, and his name was Samo. Now, from Samo, he developed into becoming Basquiat. So we have our colors, and I'm going to choose more colors. Let's see. Sky to the top, to the sky. I'll go blue. So when you're creating your pieces and coming up with your colors, that's your own personal choices to be able to have your piece just come alive. And you can go on and on and on and on and on and on. Start adding more colors, make your piece more developed. Now, the next thing that I want to show you is how you can create bubble letters, which were pretty much the first form letters in graffiti. So for my bubble letters, I'm going to use a pretty old graffiti term, not even a graffiti, hip-hop term, which is fresh, which means that something is good. So instead of starting off with my black Sharpie, I'm going to actually start off with another dark color, purple. So I'm going to take my purple and I'm going to make ovals. One oval for my F, for my R, for my E, for my S, and for my H. Now, the reason bubble letters were really popular because they were easy to be able to create in a quick time. And also when murals were being done, bubble letters were the quickest letters to be able to be put up. So with this oval shape, inside this oval shape, for my F, I have a curve. Then I have another curve. Then I go down inside that curve. And then I fill in around. So I have my F. And then for my R, curve, curve, dot. Then I go to my E, curved line, curved line. Now I have an E. Then for my S, curve. Then I go to the bottom, curve. All this is operating within the shapes of the ovals. Curve for the top of my H, curve for the bottom of my H. Then what I'm going to do is really quickly inside the curve, the small curve for a highlight line. When you see a bubble, especially like think about when you're blowing bubbles, you usually see a reflection of the light. So that represents that reflection of the light, just like that, just like that. And I can quickly get a certain effect. Then I can even add little dots here. If I want to give the illusion that it's shining, I have what's called shine or highlight lines. Or even just simple like that. Then I can start thinking about some colors. So I'm going to go with sort of a fuchsia or pink. Go on the top, fill it in. Now, one thing that you could think of when you have a marker, you could fill it all the way in, but if you're going really fast, you could just go side to side, side to side, side to side real quick, side to side, side to side, side to side real quick, just like this, side to side real quick, and that'll give you a way to cover a quick amount of area in a short time, even if you don't have a thick marker. Now, the marker that I'm using now, it's not a Sharpie, it's actually a water-based marker. So when you're working with different markers or pencils or pens, you're gonna get different desired effects or different effects. I always encourage you to try different things. And then I'm gonna have another color to contrast with on the bottom. So I have this pink up here. So on the bottom, I'm going to go with my blue again. And I fill it in, I go with my blue again, and then I fill it in, and then it's just like this, just like this. And I can add all sorts of different colors and things of that nature. To make it a little bit more exciting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some hands. You're saying hands, why? Why not? So with the hands, is going to be a way to just sort of highlight what's being said. So what I'm doing to create the hands, I have a oval-like shape, and I'll make it like a mitten. And then I'm going to put lines in it with the individual fingers. 1 line, 2 line, 3 3 line. Now I have the beginnings of fingers. Curve. So that it has the illusion of being so now I have a hand here. One of the things that you can do is add little things all around. It can be shapes. It can be something as simple as a sneaker. So on the bottom here, I'm going to start with sort of like a triangle. And it's a sneaker, or the beginning of a sneaker. Fashion is also something that is a big part of hip hop culture. So one of the more fashionable sneakers in hip hop that's lasted throughout the years has been the Adidas shell top sneaker. So I'm going to make this sneaker have a line for the sole of the sneaker. And here, go down. And then on the Adidas sneaker, it has 3 stripes. 1, 2. And I have the dots in between. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And since it's a shell top, it has ridges on it. That's the back of the sneakers. That's for the laces. Sometimes they wore laces, sometimes they did not. But I'm going to actually put laces in these. And then I'm going to add a little bit here, a little bit there. Fresh. Now the colors, you could always add more colors, different things. But that's up to you. So the last thing that I'm going to show you is an actual character, which is like a cartoon character. But, well, it is a cartoon character. I think we need to change the beat. Change your beat. Change your beat. Change your beat. All right. New beat, new treat. All right. So I'm going to go relatively quick with this. Since this is the last, yes, the last. This is the last, so we're going to get in it. Now, so for this character, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start off with this color, which is sort of a brownish yellow. So I'm going to start off with an oval. That's going to represent the head. Then I have another oval that I'm going to work with, which will represent the body. Then I want to think about the legs. So I have a simple line, a looks weird right now, right? Watch the magic. So on the other side of the line, I add another line, and I add another line. And then I add a line that doesn't go all the way towards the end. Then it's an oval, sort of a long oval. That becomes feet. Same thing on the other side. Then I have another line, and then another line. Those are arms. Still looks weird. Let's flesh it out. So with those arms, I flesh it out by adding another line. And then with this line that's here, this is going to be the beginnings of the hand. Now, you don't even have to show the whole hand. Curve around, then the thumb, then another finger that's in there. Or you can imagine that there are more than one finger that's in there. So you just make those imaginary lines. And you do the same thing on the other side. Now on the other side, I'm going to give it a little bit of variety. I'm going to make it like this hand is coming forward so that you see more fingers. So in order to see more fingers, I go around, then I go up a line, then down and up. Then I have these fingers. Then from there, I start adding different details. From this simple line here, I might add a curve. This becomes pants. And here, this is where the neck would be. But the neck is not that important. So I shadow that in. Then I go back to the oval. That's going to be the head. On the side, I make ears. Curve like a C shape on the other side. Curve like a C shape. Then a simple way to do a nose is another curve or variation of it. You can make it look like a triangle. Gets the point across without a lot of details. Then I'm going to have this character have a real simple smile, curve, and then under, I drop a shadow. Now that shadow represents the bottom part of the lip, or I can bring it all the way up, make that a smile. Ha! Make my character smile. So then, on top of here, an option I can do is I can have a curved line, go up, make sort of like an arc or upside down arc. I do the same thing on the other side. And then on the bottom of that arc, another line. That becomes one eye. Through the other side, that becomes another eye. Then on the side, I have a line. I make a curved line like this character is looking out this way. So I just curve it, darken it in a little bit. Same thing over here. Curve. On top of that line, I might make another line, but I don't have to do that. Or I can just go and make eyebrows. And then I'm going to give this character a hat. I'm not going to worry about any hair. Curved line. So I have a character, real simple character. I can add different things to them, different details to this outfit. So that's a real simple character that you can create. Now, when you're creating a character, you may have the choice of making it a male character or a female character, or taking the shape, oval. It's another quick character, side view. It's like an L, foot, leg. Now this person is going to have their arm folded. So I curve over. Oval here. And give a little bit of curves. And ponytail. And this character is facing the side, so I have the ears. That's my curve. Then I'm gonna add some earrings. Curve here. I'm not showing the full face. That shadow there. Line. Smile. I might want to exaggerate eyelashes. And I might choose to not even show the details of an open eye. And then add more details. So that's a really simple way to create some characters. And if I wanted to be even more detailed, I can use the negative space here to be able to add different letters. Go in here. And this will say cool. I use just one color to start with. But of course, when you're doing your creation, you can add more colors to make it pop. Like I'm adding this black as an outline. Even I can put the sign in. I can even decide I wanted to turn it into an ice cream cone or whatever. You get as creative as possible. So I just wanted to share all of those things. Say peace and love. Peace and love, everybody. Get your peace and love. Everybody be free. And I want y'all to celebrate in the name of hip hop. In the name of hip hop. Create your own love movement. Love yourself. Love your brothers and sisters. Love your misters. And everybody. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love from Derick Cross. Represent hip hop. So I'ma have to just go off the top and say thank you for viewing what we about to do. Or should I say what we did for kids of all ages and all stages. And we turned to new pages. And hopefully you do some expanding with hip hop and enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. Thank you, Danbury Library, for having me. I'm D Cross, Hip-Hop